Hey YouTube, welcome back to UniXTCG. First and foremost, had a comment, talked about the echo in the background. I have soundproofing pads on the way, courtesy of a brother. And yeah, basically I'm gonna have those put up as soon as they get here on Thursday so that I can reduce the amount of echo in the room. Past then, if you haven't already, go back and check out the winners for the One Piece giveaway to make sure that you were not one of the winners, so that you can contact me. I want to make sure I get all this squared away. And then lastly, I just want to say thank you guys for the overwhelming amounts of support. We have broken 3,000 subscribers and we're still climbing. So yeah, starting off 2023, really bright over here in Universe X. Today's video is about everything you need to know about playing Doffy. And so we're going to go into the current deck list that I have. And then from there, I'm going to talk about all the normal things I normally talk about. Lots of people have been waiting for this one. I just needed to make sure that I had the full week of locals to play this deck so I can have a more informed opinion on it. So yeah, if you want to help the Universe X family grow, just go down in the description. You can do a numerous amount of things. You can subscribe to either of my off-brand channels. You could go and like some videos on them. You could join the Discord where we talk about plenty of things. But either way, there's a lot of stuff to do. There's also Twitch, and in about a week and a half, I'll be playing One Piece Odyssey, so there's that too. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say. Let's change up the view and let's start talking about this deck. But real quick, just want to bring two events to your attention. There's one that's going to be in Florida this Saturday. It is a 1K event. The city is, let me actually pronounce this right, Oviedo, Florida, and that's going to be Versus Games holding a One Piece, just 1K. Then this Sunday, we actually have a webcam event. I'm gonna have the links to both of these in the description. So if you live in Florida, you wanna go, or you wanna sign up for this webcam, go ahead. Cool fact, Giancarlo will be commentating both of those. Chesco, Giancarlo, however you guys want to know him, whatever you guys know him by, he's one of the best commentators I know for TCGs. So he's going to make this a very fun watch if you're not already playing. So yeah. With that being said, like I said, the links will be in the description if you want to sign up for either one of those, and let's move on to the deck list. For real this time. All right, so real quick, before I even start, if we can take a little bit of time to appreciate the brand new mat. This is pretty cool. If you join our Discord, you can actually get in touch with the person who printed this mat. I did this mat in Photoshop, but then I ended up bringing it to one of my homies. I tried to turn Kaido, Gear 5 Luffy, and Zoro into constellations, you know, in the sky because of the whole Universe X motif. Logo, Shinku Pirates. I actually really like this mat a lot, and I'm going to be very happy to be playing on it. But that being said, let's get directly into what we have going on here. So the leader here is going to be Doflamingo, Don Quixote Doflamingo. His ability is that with 2 Don under him, you're going to be able to swing and then tap 1 more Don to look at the top card of your deck, reveal it actually, and if it's a Warlord of the 7 Seas with a cost of 4 or less, you may play it in rest position. So this is going to allow you to really play a bunch of cards off the top of your deck, and this first and foremost is going to be how this deck floats. By playing a card off the top of your deck, you are not minusing 1 in hand to go into a play, and this allows you to keep a very sizable hand size because for the most part, you're playing off the top of your deck, not your hand. 1 meaningful play a turn is going to be coming from there. Now, the other part about this is that since you are using 1 meaningful play to do that, and it's going to be a 3 Don play, you're going to be using 2 Don to put under him, 1 Don to activate his effect. That means that there's 7 left by the mid in game that you can use on other things. So this deck allows you to play off the top, be incredibly defensive, and then with the stuff that you're playing off the top, you're going to be able to, if it survives the next turn, you're going to be able to have that be your board that you're going to regress with. Also, putting 2 Don underneath Doffy is going to make sure that he's always swinging for that lovely 7K. So swinging a leader a bunch of times with Doffy is just going to be a very stressful position for your opponent. So we're going to put that there in the glare so you can't see it. I apologize about that. We'll fix that at some point. So let's go over the list I have. And I'm going to split them up into a bunch of weird ways. So first, it's going to be very reminiscent of last time. We got 4 Perona. Perona is going to be your main 1-drop top 5 searcher. Best card to open with in the deck. She's going to set up all your future turns. Then you've got Doffy. This is another top 5 setup. You're just gonna look at your top 5, rearrange them in any order. He's also a blocker. So when you're using your Doffy effect, you're not gonna want to put out blockers as much as possible. I mean, a boa is a boa. You know, a boa costs 4, so put her out. But it's rough to put out blockers because they have to survive a full turn before they can actually block again. Next, we are going to have Elvita. She is just a 2K. Her effect is trash. You are not using her for her effect. You are using her for the fact that she's a 2K. Next, you have Trafalgar Law. He is just a warlord, but he is also a 1-drop. You never really want to play this off the leader because there's almost 0 chances that he survives until next turn. But yeah, you can always stack him on the deck so that he can be your next draw because he's just an easy 1 Dawn play. Following that, we have got Blackbeard, or Marshall D. Teach. He's a really cool dude. He literally just comes down and he can bounce any 3 cost or less. And the reason why this is cool is because if your opponent has a small blocker, you can swing with Doffy. Like I won against a Kaido player because he had a Kurazumi blocker, the 2-drop guy with the face paint. And I literally put, I think, 7 Dawn on him because that was the max amount I anticipated for my opponent to have in hand. Swung for 12K, and then I tapped 1. I had stacked Marshall Teach for the turn with Perona. So I think actually the turn was Perona for 1, put 8 on Doflamingo, swing with Doflamingo for 13, tap my last Dawn, plays Teach off the top, bounces his Kurazumi, forcing him into the counter window, and he didn't have enough counter to stop 13K, so that was game. So this guy can make some really sick plays, might bring him back up to 4, we'll see. Now these are kind of weird. These are my techs, but so far they've been working out for me. I have been teching 2 of the rare Gecko Moria. This is something I'm not really seeing in other people's lists. Basically, his ability is, during my turn, he has double attack by 5 more cards in hand. A lot of the mid-game, and some of the late game too, you're going to have a lot of cards in hand with this deck just because of the way it can stack and the way you can go into your turn and just build up that amount. And when you start really rolling in this deck, it gets so hard for them to destroy your board presence outside of an actual board wipe with like Kaido. So there are a lot of times where you can put 2 Dawn on this guy and swing after you've already swung with your leader. Like swing your leader for 2 and then you tap 1 and you put out the warlord. Swing with this guy with 2 more on him. You've only used 5 Dawn at this point. Heck, if you wanted to, you could even put a 3rd Dawn on him, swing it for 8, really make your opponent work for it, knowing that you have 4 up, and that 4 can be used for any of your extras. So he's a very, very interesting card, and I find that in the matchup, he just starts like really pushing damage. Next, you've got the other Gecko Morias. These guys recur any warlord of the 7 Seas from that's going to cost 4 or less. So far, most of this lineup, the Doffys, the Trelaws, the Blackbeards, you can't grab Gecko Moria with Gecko Moria, so he's kind of immune to his own effect. But what you can grab, Mihawk, which is what we're doing next. For the most part, he's used as a 2K, but he's actually a really good swinger because when you swing with him, you're going to draw 1, you're going to discard, or you're going to draw 2, trash 2. And so basically he's going to allow you to filter through your deck. You can get rid of, your big Doffys or Mihawks if you already have one established on the board. You don't think you'll need it again. You can get rid of just dead cards in general. But for the most part, yeah, he's going to be used as a 2K. Then you have actually got the Boa. And the Boa is one of the better cards in the deck. She is a 4-cost 5K blocker. When she has a Dawn underneath her and you attack or block with her, if you have 5 or less cards in hand, you draw a card. This is actually really, really good. One of the only versatile cards like this that has an effect on your opponent's turn and your turn. It does the same thing. And she'll be swinging for 6K on your turn and drawing you a card, which means you can just put 1 more Dawn in her, swing her that magical 7K, draw a card, or she can block. She's just one of the cards where if you do not get her off the field, she will run the game through incremental advantage. Now we're going to move away from the Warlord core that we can play. We're going to talk about our heavy hitters. I personally am running 3 Doffy and 3 Mihawk. Some people may say this is a lot, but I've been going back and forth on ratios. Any more than this is too much in my opinion, but when you play less than this, you can go multiple top 5 searches and not find these guys. And it is very, very important to your kid matchup that you play one of these guys before they can establish a kid. And luckily, because kid is essentially a 10 Dawn play, you play it for 8, you put 1 under it, you have 1 left over, Paradise Waterfall, or maybe a beige blocker or anything. I think it's very important to note that no matter what, going first or second, you should be able to land one of these before they land a kid. Like if you play Doflamingo, just bounce back whatever you think is most obstructive to your play next turn, and then, you know, let them sit so that when they summon the kid, all you have to do is take care of their other blockers, which is something you can do with things like Martial Teach. And then after you take care of the other blockers, you just swing in with a donned up Doflamingo and see if they have it. They either do or they don't, but starting at 7k is really strong. Mihawk, almost even better, because at Mihawk, when he comes down, if you're bringing him down before the kid turn, you can literally just bounce whatever blocker they have on board, knowing that it goes to the bottom of the deck, and then know that next turn's gonna be a lot easier. Depending on the ways you set up your turn, you can have turns where you like play Mihawk, you know, and you bounce a blocker, and then next turn, or maybe that turn for your last Dawn, if you have 10, or maybe next turn, you started off with the playing of Perona or something. Or maybe you spotted on their turn, you set up a Martial Teach. You swing with your Doffy, make it swing for 8. Maybe just put 8 on him, maybe 9, depends. Well, not 8 or 9. Put him up to 8 or 9, swing on the law. And then when you, or swing on the kid, and when you swing on the kid, you know, you use his effect, you martially teach their blocker to the bottom, and now you have free swings. He's gonna swing for 8 or 9, and then your opponent has to try to combo out of that with kid, which should be easy. But then you have the Mihawk backing it up. Put a Dawn or 2 under there, swing, see if they can do it again. Very, very powerful combos. Next, you have this card. Lots of people were telling me that I run too many of these. I actually don't feel so. I am running 4 Spada because in this deck, every single turn, if possible, I want to flip a card off the top of my deck with Doffy's effect, because every time I do that, I'm not wasting a card in hand. And so Spada is great because not only does it defend me from small chumps, on top of defending me from small chumps, it can defend things like my Boas and my Geckos and my Mihawks, anything that comes off the top of the deck from chumps as well, while setting up my next 3 to ensure that next turn I'm gonna go off as well. Past that, you got 4 Love Mellow. Love Mellow. No real explanation needed. It's just a very, very, very good card. And you're going to go up 4k and draw 1 if you're at 4 or less. There's a whole lot of stuff you can do here. You could be, or 3 or less. You could literally have 1 card in hand, right? And then it could be Level of Mellow. Or you can have 2 cards in hand and one of them be Level of Mellow. And it's just, actually, I guess at maximum value, you could have 4 cards. No, 3 cards. 3 cards in hand. And you could block with Boa Hancock going up to 4. And then you could Love Mellow, dropping Love Mellow, going down to 3, and then drawing another one. You've seen 2 additional cards, and you've also blocked and gone up to 9 Camera Blocker. So there's a lot of little combinations you can do. Lastly, there's Overheat. This is my least favorite, but it has its merits. Being able to bounce a untapped 4 or 3 or less is very, very strong. If it gets flipped up, you can just return any 4 or less to the hand. So it has its merits, but you go up 4k and you bounce an active 3 or less, or you get it triggered and you go 4 or less. Also, speaking of triggers, very, very, very good trigger on Spada. That's another reason why it's at 4. When it gets triggered, you draw 2 trash ones, so that's just really, really good filter. Now, when it comes to the text, I'm gonna go over these, and I'm gonna talk about some of the matchups right afterwards. When it comes to the text, the first tech I'd like to talk about, it's actually 4 different cards. And that would be the Sentamaru chain going along with, let me actually just move some of these. I don't want to confuse too many people, but it's going to be the Sentamaru chain followed by all the kind of Bartholomew Kumas and Pacifistas. This is actually going to be a huge, huge point of discussion, because I feel like some people feel like you can jam everything in, but there's pluses and minuses to each core. And I feel like you can't willy-nilly go playing all of them without potentially sacrificing consistency in other places. If you hear my cats meowing, I apologize. This is their first night at the new place, and so they are a little frizzy. They kind of just want me to be in there the entire time. And at this moment, I'm recording. So, now, when it comes to this, you got Sentamaru. You guys should know him. He's been a star of the blue deck since release. And, you put 1 Dawn under him, and then you activate him for 2. So that's a total of 3 Dawn. You don't really want to use it the same turn you bring him out, because that's going to be almost leaving you defenseless, unless you just know you have no better play. Putting him out and then using 3 a turn, it's going to be able to bring out a Pacifista from your deck. Now, the thing about this, right? is this is the cool part about this character, because you have basically these two cards, Sentimaro bringing out a pacifista from your deck, and then you have Bartholomew Kuma, who is a warlord of the Seven Seas who can be flipped with Doffy. He's a blocker, and when he gets KO'd, you can play a pacifista from hand. Now moving into pacifistas, you have the one from the starter deck, which is a 6k vanilla, but you have the one from the booster pack, Romance Dawn, which is actually just a 5k blocker that you can have as many in your deck as possible that you feel like. So the funny thing about this is that this is all an engine on its own, but my couple things are, when it comes to the pluses, pulling from deck to thin your deck is amazing. You're pulling warlords or non-warlords out, being the pacifistas, and you have an offensive and a defensive ability. You have the 6k body that's going to press really hard, and you also have the 5k blocker body, which is going to help defend you. Then you have Bartholomew Kuma, who, if you get these stuck in hand, you can then have him block to then blow up this, and then you can flip him off the leader. Here's the thing though, you have to use a considerable amount of deck slots in order to fit these in. You're probably running no less than 3 Bartholomew Kuma, no less than 3 Pacifista, no less than 3 Pacifista here. And if you're going to be running at those at all points, you might as well be running 3 to 4 Sentimaros. But now, that is you running maybe 3 to 4 plus 9. That's 13 slots out of your deck devoted to this combo. That being said, you may think, okay, well, I'm taking off the top of the deck and I'm thinning the deck, and I have coverage for if they draw into hand. At the same time, though, this is a 3 Dawn play, your leader. This is a 3 Dawn play being Sentimaro. If you use both of them in the same turn, you don't have much else room to use a play. Granted, 4 is the magic number because you can use 2 things here, you can use 1 and 2. 4 is a very good number. However, I will say that when you use these in tandem, you are betting that you still have these in deck. You are betting that you still have, these in hand for this effect. You are betting that these won't clog up your top 5 and make using this less effective. A lot of things have to go right for this to go right. Sorry, one of my cats was kind of crying. Like I said, they're adjusting. So yeah, like I was saying, a lot of things have to go right for using these 2 in tandem, and essentially these 3 in tandem, to go optimally. And I like being consistent more than anything. And when it comes to all these cards I have here, there are very few cards that I'd like to take out in order to resolve this engine. Like, I could take out the 2 Gecko Morias, 1 Spada, 2, 3 Overheats. Even so, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is more than a 6 card core. So I feel like you have to fit in quite a lot to make this manageable. So, put this off to the side. Now, the next one that I want to talk about, the next tech, is Jinbei. Jinbei is going to cost 4. He's going to bottom deck something with 3 or less costs. That's cool. Bottom decking is so much better than bringing back to hand, but Bandai knows that, and so they gave him a whopping 4 cost for a 2k body. He has no counter 2. This card isn't even a warlord. It's cheeks, man. When you play it, sometimes it feels good. If you get it off life, it feels amazing. Otherwise, this guy feels like a dead bit in your hand. You're gonna trash him for Mihawk. There's just not a lot of good with him, in my opinion. Next, you have Virgo. Virgo is a very, very, very good card. Virgo is going to be able to put out a body out for 5 that can almost go neutral with Kid, so that when they play Kid, 8-drop Kid, you have a card that can already go side to side. So you can invest Dawn on your leader. You can invest Dawn on Virgo. You can invest Dawn in playing like a Teach. You could stack a Teach at the top of your deck, swing a lot with Doffy, put a blocker down, and then Dawn up the rest on Virgo and swing in. So in all honesty, Virgo could easily go in for these 2 Gecko Morias. He's just not a warlord, so I can't flip him off the top. But just let it be known that Virgo is very, very good, and he's likely going to be in the next Doffy list that you have me making. The last character I was going to put down is Crocodile. Crocodile is a very, very good card. Basically what he's going to do is when you put a Dawn underneath him, he's going to lower the cost of all your event cards by 1. That's a very, very, very strong effect. He's going to be able to allow you to play these Overheats and these lows for 1, these Spadas for literally 0. However, the thing is that when you build around Crocodile, and also he's a 1k, I can't take that away from him. When you build around Crocodile SR, you put yourself in a position where certain decks can mise you. Green won't be able to do it really. they have to swing into you, and you have so much gas when this guy is out and about. However, like, yeah, if you get your board blown up by 10 drop, that's gonna really suck. Red is probably the worst case scenario for this card, because red only has to use 5 Dawn to get rid of this, and if you just played this card, you probably barely have the Dawn up to protect yourself outside of his effect lowering everything. So if your opponent just jet pistols you after automating you, you're going to be in a world of hurt when they swing the rest of their field at you, and you just spent your entire turn investing in this card. Next and last, you have Sables. This is an OG card from the starter deck. Basically, it's like effect. It's the Doffy effect without the body. For 4, you're bouncing something 7 or less to the hand. Very, very, very decent card. I don't really think it has a place in this current meta because you have Doffy as the body and you just have so many blockers and so much setup. But I can see that maybe in the future, if we have side decks, I can easily see this being a certain card put in. Like, you just don't want to have to contest kid blockers and stuff like that. So that is the current list that I was rocking with. Now we can go to matchups. When it comes to matchups, I think we'll start with red, as per usual. Red is almost a tempo match. Why? Because this deck isn't actually as control as most people think. It's actually pretty aggro. It's a tempo-y aggro, but it is aggro. You are swinging with 7k almost every swing here. You're putting 5ks on the board. You're swinging with those 5ks. And then the thing though, is that while you have stable aggression, you are also defending yourself with your powerful extras, your 2ks, and you're constantly fixing your draws so that you understand what you're bringing up. You understand what you're flipping with him. You understand what you're setting yourself up for. But the main thing that comes into play is that you have a steady sense of draw. Between Mihawk filtering, Boa getting her draws, you're constantly going to be drawing cards. Love going off. And then the last little bit of the puzzle when it comes to Doffy is being able to play these very big drops, these 7 Doffys and these 9 Mihawks, and putting your opponent on a clock. Putting your opponent on a clock where these are, like, this is the magic number to drain your hand, but 9k is a total where you block it or you just lose a bunch of cards in hand. So, you know, if the deck does what it does and gets you down to 2 life, you're in a lot of danger because the Mihawk that's going to come down is going to start terrorizing your hand and then your life and your board if need be. So this is a very aggressive blue deck. So against red, it's kind of wild because you will build a board faster than they can take care of it in most cases. Red has to be very careful about swinging on your things when the shields are low. Like if you tapped out for a turn, okay, maybe they can get a shot in on it. But while you have 2 Dawn up, it's almost just a waste to swing on your battle cards. You might as well serve your characters. Red has to go face. So you really are kind of racing red. And then also, once you get to your late game, you're playing these bosses that are really going to harm red. Put red on a, you know, especially if they're not running blockers, put red on the clock. Very easy. Against blue, you're kind of in a position where you cannot let blue dictate the flow of the game. Green. It is against green, you are actually in a battle of momentum, and that's a tempo control like matchup. Like that sounds like a lot of buzzwords, but really you're at a position where you need to make sure you are out tempoing Kid. Because if Kid gets to a point where it can drop its 8 drop before you have any valid swingers on board, they likely will run the game. An 8 drop and 2 blockers, you will probably not break through that board for turns to come. However, if you establish a Doffy or a Mihawk before they can drop that Kid, they are immediately in danger. They need to set up 2-3 blockers because you'll be able to swing very hard with Doffy for one of them, perhaps block or back one up with Teach, or if they got caught lacking, overheat on their turn, and then you can Dawn up on the Mihawk and swing in and likely just kill their Kid flat out. So you guys are going to be fighting for momentum. We're going to move on to the purple matchup. The purple matchup is interesting. It's a lot like the green matchup, or like how green has a purple matchup. You need to rush them down as low as possible, because if purple gets down to like 1 life too early, they cannot successfully 10 drop you without knowing they're going to lose the game next turn. So you have to put them in a position where they can never comfortably 10 drop you. Your biggest cards do not hit their biggest cards, so they can put you on a clock just like you're used to putting other people on clocks. However, you're going to go a lot wider than them. So until they start bringing out like the big guns, when I mean the big guns, I mean like 10-drop Kaido that'll blow up one thing, or blow up the entire board. 9-drop Kaido that'll blow up one big thing. Even the 6-drop King will only blow up 4 drops, which is nice because you have a lot of power in here, but it's only one at a time. So if your board's wide enough, that King is just going to come down and do King things, and then you're going to be like, cool, I still have my board. So you need to be the aggressor 100% in the purple matchup to ensure that they cannot 10-drop you successfully. And then the mirror is really, really weird in my opinion. And by weird, I mean, it's kind of rough. You guys both are going to build mad boards. You're both going to have access to a fair amount of spread counter power. So you're going to have that war of attrition. You need to take care of your opponent's board while still pressing at their life. And that'll go back and forth. Like any mirror match in this game, there are certain nuances. I think Kaido is the most straightforward mirror match because literally don't 10-drop before your opponent 10-drops unless you have another 10-drop. And sorry, it's late. I'm kind of pushing myself, but yeah. So I think that Doffy's mirror, Zoro's mirror, and Kid's mirror are all pretty complicated. Maybe that'll be something I kind of go into in another series of videos. But yeah, you literally have to, once again, out-tempo your opponent. Make sure that their battle cards are dying. Make sure that you are then swinging, or their characters, make sure you're then swinging at their face. But if you do all these things in tandem, you should be at a position where you can successfully come back or just, maintain your board status. Make sure that theirs never gets out of control and you punch. But who knows? Maybe they draw much, much better than you. So yeah, those are all my points about Doffy. The deck list, the text, what to play, what not to play, why you may play. Little side note, if you are playing against a lot of purple, the pacifista line is kind of nice because they can't 10-drop you without potentially giving you another card to play and hit them with later, making it even worse, making it even like dangerous to do it at 2 life, because if they hit you for 2, or if they hit you for the 10-drop and you have like 3 life, and they blow you up your entire field and they give you a pacifista, you almost have 2 free shots plus the top of your deck. So you're going to be able to swing heavy with Doffy, see if they can block it or not. They can't because they're tapped out, so it really depends on the strength of their 2Ks. And then you can flip over a Warlord perhaps, but then you have this guy. You can also put another 1 to 2 on there, swing again, and then next turn, they have 0 life and 1 big swing if they don't have a blockers lead. So that being said, I wanted to thank you guys for coming by. We've had a lot of good support with the One Piece crew. Shinku Pirates have been setting sail, and we're going to keep setting sail. We're going to keep going until we hit that red line. And then, yeah, like I said, we'll have soundproofing around here soon, so you'll hear less of the echo. And I just want to thank you guys for dropping by. Like the video, comment in there, let me know your thoughts, help it trend, and I will see you in the next video. Later.